Part 1. The Intense Arrival. The night was colder than any Mark had ever known. The wind howled like a wild beast, rattling the walls of his small outpost on the edge of the frontier planet. A distant storm crackled in the dark sky, lightning slicing through the thick clouds. Mark's breath hung heavy in the frigid air as he adjusted the antenna, trying to get a clearer signal from the monitoring station. He'd been alone for weeks, far from the nearest colony, on a mission no one really understood. Then a sudden sharp sound broke the silence, a high-pitched scream, almost human, but twisted by pain and fear. Mark froze, his heart pounding. It came from the ravine just beyond the rocky ridge. Without a second thought, he grabbed his flashlight and his emergency flare pistol. The outpost was equipped for emergencies, but nothing had prepared him for this. He sprinted toward the source of the cry, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Then he saw her. She was lying against a jagged rock, her skin glowing faintly under the moonlight, colors shifting like liquid. Her eyes were wide open, deep black with flecks of silver, and she gasped for breath. She was unlike anything Mark had ever seen, tall and slender, almost fragile, yet with an otherworldly presence that made his skin prickle. He knelt beside her, heart racing. "Are you okay? Can you speak?" She tried to answer, but only let out a strangled sound, clutching her side. Something was terribly wrong. Mark's mind raced. Aliens had been rumored to exist in this sector, but no one had ever reported an actual encounter, especially one so close. His scientific training battled with his instincts. Was she dangerous, or simply desperate for help? Before he could decide, the ground trembled beneath them. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through his bones. The alien's body convulsed suddenly, light flashing from her skin like an electrical storm contained within. Mark stumbled back, shielded his eyes. When the light faded, she was trembling, sweat glistening on her glowing skin. Then she whispered, words that sounded like a language older than time itself. Mark didn't understand the meaning, but the tone was urgent, pleading. He looked into her eyes. Fear, pain, and something else. A deep loneliness that mirrored his own isolation. He made a choice. "I'll help you," he said quietly, offering his hand. She hesitated, then grasped it weakly. Back at the outpost, Mark worked quickly, setting up a makeshift medical station. He cleaned her wounds with sterile water and tried to stabilize her breathing, but something was wrong beneath the surface. Hours passed, and the alien's body began to change. Her skin shimmered and strange pulses rippled from her chest. Mark's instruments went haywire, reading erratic vital signs. Then, without warning, she let out a scream, a sound so raw and desperate it shook the walls. Mark rushed to her side. Her eyes blazed with a fierce light, and her entire body trembled violently. Suddenly, she collapsed, convulsing in pain. Mark's mind flashed back to what little he had read about alien biology. Something called a mating season, a biological cycle, with intense physical and emotional effects. Could this be it? He had no idea what to do. The aliens' convulsions intensified, shaking the entire room. Objects around them rattled, and the power flickered. Mark held her hand, trying to calm both her and himself. Then came the strangest moment. The alien's eyes locked onto his, wide and pleading. "I need help," she whispered in broken English, voice cracking. Mark swallowed hard. This was no ordinary refugee. This was a being caught in a cycle beyond his understanding, and now he was its only hope. Outside, the storm raged on, and inside the outpost, the true mystery had only just begun. Cliffhanger. Suddenly the lights went out, and in the silence, a deep guttural sound echoed from the alien's throat, shaking Mark to his core. Unseen threats and growing bonds. The outposts. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows across the small room. Mark's heart hammered as he sat beside the alien refugee. the mysterious woman whose presence had shattered his isolated existence. The guttural sound she had made in the darkness still echoed in his ears, a haunting reminder that whatever cycle she was going through, it wasn't natural by human standards. Her breathing was shallow, each gasp trembling with pain. Yet beneath her glowing skin, Mark noticed subtle pulses of light, like living veins of energy, flowing through her body. His scientific mind scrambled to make sense of the readings, but every instrument he had was unreliable in her presence. The usual rules simply didn't apply. "Can you understand me?" Mark asked softly. The alien's eyes fluttered open. This time the silver flecks seemed to shimmer brighter, as if acknowledging his question. Yes," she whispered, voice strained. "Name?" "Aris." Mark nodded. "I'm Mark. You're safe here. But you're sick. Your body—" Aris shook her head weakly. "Not sick. Cycle. Mating season. Dangerous for me, for others." Mark swallowed hard. Mating season. He'd heard the term used for animals back home, but never imagined it would apply to an alien, especially one who looked so fragile, yet had such overwhelming power. The outpost's sensors suddenly went haywire again. The walls vibrated faintly, the air thick with static energy. Mark stood up and walked to the control panel. "Something's interfering with the systems." Aris looked around, eyes wide with fear. "It is me, my body, changing. I cannot control." Mark's mind raced. If her condition was affecting the outpost's technology, what would happen if it spread beyond these walls? He looked back at her. "We need to find a way to calm you down." Aris reached out, her hand trembling. "Must find others. My kind. They know." Mark hesitated. "Others? Are there more like you here?" Aris nodded. "Yes, but hunted. Enemies seek us. I escaped." Mark's thoughts flashed to the signal he'd detected earlier, the strange transmission coming from deep space. Could it be a call for help or a warning? Suddenly, the outpost's external alarm blared, a sharp, piercing sound that broke the fragile silence. Mark grabbed his rifle and rushed outside. Through the swirling snow, he saw figures approaching, human shapes, but moving with military precision. "Government agents," Mark muttered, heart sinking. "They've found her." Back inside, Aris was trembling uncontrollably. Her body radiated waves of energy that distorted the room, causing lights to flicker and walls to hum. Mark returned quickly, placing himself between her and the door. "I won't let them take you." Aris looked at him, eyes filled with trust and fear. "Thank you, Mark, but time is short." The agents pounded on the door, demanding entry. Mark's voice was firm. "This is a private facility. You have no authority here." One agent spoke through a loudspeaker. "We have orders to detain the alien lifeform. Stand down or we will breach." Mark clenched his fists. He couldn't let them capture Aris, not while she was in this state. He turned to Aris. "We need a plan. Can you help me?" Aris nodded, but her expression was strained. "My powers grow stronger. I fear what will happen if the cycle completes here." Mark's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" She took a shaky breath. "If I don't find my mate soon, the energy will consume me, and those around me." The room grew colder. Mark felt a sudden chill crawl up his spine. Suddenly, a loud crash shook the outpost. The agents had broken in. Mark grabbed Aris and darted toward a hidden tunnel, a forgotten escape route he had discovered during his early days here. As they fled through the dark passage, Aris's energy flared wildly, causing rocks to glow and the walls to vibrate. Mark struggled to keep pace, the weight of responsibility crushing him. Outside, the storm raged, the howling wind masking their footsteps. They emerged into the forest, breathless and exhausted. Mark looked at Aris, who was visibly weakening. "We need to get you somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere they won't find us." Aris nodded, weakly. "There is a place, old ruins, sacred to my people. It may help." Mark didn't question it. With no other choice, he helped her walk deeper into the alien wilderness. As they moved, Mark noticed changes in Aris, moments of lucidity followed by waves of pain. She would clutch her chest, her eyes glazing over as visions flickered behind. "Them, Mark," she whispered one night, voice barely audible. "I see home, but it is dying." Mark's heart ached for her. She was more than a refugee. She was a survivor burdened with a desperate mission. Days passed. Their bond grew stronger, built on shared fear and fragile hope. One evening, as they rested near a stream, Aris suddenly reached out, touching Mark's arm with surprising strength. "You understand me," she said softly. Mark smiled tiredly. "I'm trying." But even as he spoke, the forest around them seemed to shimmer and warp, a sign that Aris's mating season was far from over. And then, without warning, a shadow moved. Between the trees, Mark tensed. From the darkness stepped a figure, tall, clad in black armor, eyes cold and calculating. "Mark," the stranger said calmly, "you don't know what you've gotten yourself into." Aris stepped forward, her energy pulsing fiercely. Mark realized this was only the beginning of a far deeper mystery, one that would test everything he believed about life, loyalty, and survival. Cliffhanger. As the stranger raised a device that crackled with blue energy, Aris's body erupted in light, the mating season's power surging out of control. And Mark was caught in the middle of a cosmic storm he couldn't escape. The cosmic storm and the enemy, within, the blue, crackling. Device aimed at them in the shadowy forest hummed with ominous energy. Mark's breath hitched as he felt the raw power radiate from it, an energy unlike anything he had ever seen. Aris's glowing skin pulsed brighter and brighter, the waves of her mating season raging beyond control. Mark tried to shield her body with his own, but the energy exploded outward like a storm. Caught in a bottle, leaves, dust, and small rocks swirled around them in a wild vortex. The forest seemed to warp, light bending and twisting in impossible ways. The stranger's calm eyes never wavered, but Mark saw something deeper beneath the surface, a cold determination and perhaps fear. "Who are you?" Mark shouted over the roar of the cosmic storm. The stranger's voice was steady, but laced with disdain. "I am Commander Thal of the Coalition, and you have interfered with a matter far beyond your comprehension." Mark shook his head, refusing to back down. "Aris is not a threat. She needs help." Thal's lips curled in a bitter smile. "She's more dangerous than you know. Her mating season is not just biology. It's a weapon, one that could destroy entire worlds." Aris's convulsions intensified. Mark could see her struggling against the pain, her body fighting an invisible battle. Mark grasped her hand tightly. "Tell me what to do. Help me save you." Aris's voice trembled. "Must find the crystal, ancient relic. It can calm the cycle. Stop the storm." Thal laughed darkly. "The crystal? That's a myth. Nothing more than stories your kind tells to feel safe." Mark's mind raced. The ancient ruins Aris had mentioned. Could the crystal be there? Thal's eyes narrowed. "If you seek the crystal, you'll have to go through me." Before Mark could react, Thal activated the device again, and another surge of blue energy blasted toward them. Mark threw himself over Aris, absorbing the impact. Pain exploded in his chest, but he held on. The storm around them reached a terrifying crescendo. Then suddenly, silence. Mark opened his eyes to find the device shattered on the ground. Thal was lying a few feet away, unconscious but alive. Aris was breathing heavily, her glow dimmed but steady. Mark helped her up. "We need to move. Now." Together, they fled deeper into the forest, the storm's remnants fading, but the danger far from over. As they walked, Aris began to explain the legend of the crystal. "Long ago," she whispered, "our people thrived across the stars. The crystal was a gift, a source of balance and peace. But, Mark asked, how does it stop the mating season? Aris's eyes filled with sadness. It controls the energy inside us. Without it, the cycle grows wild and uncontrollable. Mark looked at her glowing skin, remembering the violence of the storm. They reached the edge of the ancient ruins as dawn broke, pale light filtering through twisted stone pillars covered in strange symbols. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. This place was old, older than anything recorded in human history. Inside, they discovered chambers filled with intricate carvings and alien technology faintly humming with power. Aris led Mark to a pedestal at the center, where a crystal shimmered, with a soft blue light. "This is it," she breathed, but as they approached, the ground trembled. Thal was not far behind. He had recovered and was determined to capture the crystal for the Coalition. Mark and Aris braced themselves as Thal appeared, weapon drawn. "Give me the crystal," he demanded, "or I will take it by force." Mark shook his head. "You don't understand the consequences. This isn't just about power, it's about survival." Thal's expression hardened. "Your survival means nothing if your kind destroys others." In that moment, Aris stepped forward, her energy flaring one last time. She placed her hand on the crystal. A wave of calm spread through her body, the violent energy subsiding. Mark watched in awe as the glowing veins of power dimmed, replaced by a peaceful light. Thal's eyes widened. "Impossible." Aris looked at Mark, her voice steady. "The crystal heals. It binds the cycle. Now I am whole again." But their victory was short-lived. Suddenly the ruins shook violently. Cracks spreading through the stone. The ground beneath them split open, revealing a dark abyss. Mark grabbed Aris's hand. "We have to get out. Now!" They sprinted as the ruins crumbled around them. Just as they reached the surface, a massive explosion rocked the forest, sending shockwaves through the air. Mark looked back to see the abyss glowing with a strange light, as if something ancient and terrible had been unleashed. Cliffhanger. As Mark and Aris caught their breath, a distant, otherworldly roar echoed through the trees, a warning that their struggle was only beginning and the enemy was far closer than they thought. The enemy closer than ever. The eerie roar faded into the cold morning mist, leaving a heavy silence that pressed on Mark's chest. His eyes darted around the shattered ruins, trying to process everything that had just happened. The ancient crystal had calmed Aris's raging mating season. But at what cost? The deep chasm now yawned where the heart of the ruins had been, glowing faintly with an unnatural light. Aris's breathing was steady now, but her eyes held a new weight, one Mark hadn't seen before. "That roar," she said softly, "is a warning, not from the Coalition, something else." Mark's mind reeled. What could be worse than Commander Thal and his forces? She hesitated. "I fear a predator, an ancient one, bound to this place, awakened by the crystal." Mark's heart skipped a beat. "A predator?" Aris nodded grimly. "Not like your earth creatures. It hunts energy, life force. It is drawn to me, to the crystal's power." The forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly, rustling came from the dense trees. Mark's grip tightened on the makeshift spear he had fashioned during their flight. Aris's glow flickered. From the shadows emerged figures, not human, but unlike Aris or Thal. Sleek, almost spectral, with eyes that burned cold like embers. Silent hunters. Mark took a step back, pulling Aris behind him. "Who are they?" Aris whispered. "The Wraiths. Ancient guardians corrupted by greed and hunger for power, once protectors, now predators." One of the Wraiths stepped forward, its form shimmering like a mirage. "We seek the crystal, return it or perish." Mark glanced at Aris. "What do we do?" Her hands trembled as she reached for the crystal, now safely nestled inside a small containment device Mark had fashioned. "If we give it to them, their hunger will grow. But if we keep it, they will not leave us alive." Mark swallowed hard, the weight of their impossible choice sinking in. The wraiths closed in, the air thick with tension. Just then, a sudden burst of light erupted from Aris's chest, sending the wraith staggering back. Mark realized that the crystal's bond with Aris was stronger than he'd imagined. It had granted her new strength, but also painted a target on their backs. With no time to lose, Mark grabbed Aris's hand, and they fled into the wilderness. The wraiths pursued silently, disappearing and reappearing like shadows on the edge of his vision. Hours blurred as they ran through the thick forest, exhaustion gnawing at their bodies. But Mark knew they couldn't outrun the danger forever. They found refuge in a hidden cave marked with alien glyphs. Aris collapsed against the cold stone wall, her glow dimming again. The crystal must be returned to the ruins, but the wraiths will never allow it. Mark sat beside her, worry and determination mixing in his chest. There has to be another way. Aris's eyes locked onto his. There is, but it means returning to my home world. Mark stared, stunned. You mean the place you escaped from, the one the Coalition hunts? She nodded slowly. If I can reach the heart of my world, I can awaken the true power of the crystal. It will heal the cycle and stop the wraiths. But that's light years away, Mark whispered. Aris gave a faint smile, touched by his disbelief. I have hope in you, Mark. You have helped me survive this far. Together we might just change everything. Mark clenched his fists, a spark of defiance lighting within him. Then we'll find a way. But the forest wasn't done testing them. From the cave's entrance, a low growl echoed. Mark's head snapped up. Two pairs of glowing eyes stared. Back, wild, feral creatures, their teeth bared in hunger. Aris's hand went to her chest, her glow flaring in warning. Mark reached for a broken branch and stood his ground. The creatures lunged. The battle was fierce but brief. Mark fought with raw desperation, fueled by the need to protect Aris and the fragile hope they represented. When the last creature fell, Mark collapsed to his knees, breathing ragged. Aris placed a hand on his shoulder. You saved me again. Mark shook his head, voice shaking. We're in deeper trouble than I thought. She nodded. The wraiths and the Coalition both want to control the crystal, but if the predator is truly awakened, none of that will matter. Mark looked at the dim glow of the crystal containment device. We have to get to your home, he said quietly. No matter what. Aris closed her eyes. Then we must prepare. The journey will test everything we have. As night fell, the cave grew colder, but inside a fragile alliance had formed, a human and an alien, bound by survival, trust, and the hope to stop a power that could unravel the universe. Journey to the stars and hidden truths. The forest's cold night air was thick with silence, broken only by the occasional distant cry of nocturnal creatures. Mark and Aris sat side by side in the cave, their faces illuminated faintly by the soft, pulsating light of the crystal encased between them. The fragile peace felt like the calm before a storm. Mark rubbed his temples. Getting to your home. A world. It sounds impossible. Aris's gaze was steady, her voice low but resolute. It's the only way. The crystal's true power can only be unlocked where it was created, in the core of my people's world. Mark let out a slow breath, realizing the journey would require more than courage. It would demand trust, sacrifice, and the strength to face enemies beyond their worst fears. But there was something else gnawing at him. The growing mystery surrounding Aris herself. How did you escape the Coalition? He asked cautiously. Aris's eyes darkened, memories flashing behind her glowing skin. I was different, born during a rare cycle marked by the Elders as both a blessing and a curse. She paused. The Coalition hunted me because they feared what I represented, a key to power they could never control. Mark nodded slowly, beginning to understand the stakes. And the wraiths? Why are they after the crystal? They were once protectors. Of balance, Aris explained, but greed corrupted them. They craved the crystal's energy to fuel their endless hunger. Mark's mind raced with the implications. The crystal was more than a relic. It was the universe's fragile balance. Then we can't let it fall into their hands, he said firmly. The next morning, they left the cave and headed toward a hidden landing site Aris had once used. Concealed beneath a thick canopy was a small, sleek spacecraft, ancient but functional, humming softly with dormant energy. Mark ran his hand over the smooth hull, a mixture of awe and fear rising inside him. I've never been in a ship like this, Aris smiled faintly. It's not just a ship, it's part of my people's legacy. It will take us beyond the stars. With no time to waste, they boarded the craft. Aris activated the controls, and the ship shuddered to life, rising silently above the forest canopy. As Earth fell away beneath them, Mark stared out the viewport at the infinite darkness dotted with distant stars. "This is real," he whispered. "We're really doing this." Aris's voice was calm, but carried an edge of urgency. "The Coalition will be hunting us now. We must move quickly and quietly." Hours stretched into days as they navigated through hyperspace, the silence between them filled with unspoken fears and hopes. Then, without warning, the ship's alarms blared, an incoming signal. Mark and Aris exchanged tense glances. Aris accessed the console, her fingers flying over alien symbols. "It's a distress call from my home world." Mark's heart pounded. "Are they in danger?" Aris nodded. "The Coalition has landed. They're searching for the crystal." Mark clenched his fists. "We have to help." The ship exited hyperspace near a glowing planet, its surface scarred by craters and shimmering with strange energy fields. Aris's voice softened. "Home." As they descended, Mark noticed the planet's landscape, vast deserts interrupted by lush oases, ancient cities half buried in sand, and towering spires that pulsed with light, but the welcome was far from warm. As they landed near the ruins of a once great city, Coalition troops appeared, armed and ready. Mark and Aris had little time. The Coalition commander from earlier, Thal, stepped forward, eyes cold with hatred. "You brought the crystal," he sneered. "Hand it over, or watch your world burn." Mark stepped protectively in front of Aris. "No." Thal laughed cruelly. "Then, prepare for war." Suddenly a new figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, regal alien with silver hair and piercing eyes. "Enough," she commanded. The troops hesitated. Aris's eyes widened. "Mother!" Mark looked between them, stunned. The woman approached, her gaze fierce but filled with sorrow. "You have defied the Coalition's rule," she said to Aris. "But the crystal is more than a weapon. It is our hope for peace." She turned to Mark. "And you, human, have shown courage few possess. We will need your strength." Mark swallowed his surprise. "I'm ready." The mother revealed a secret, a hidden sanctuary beneath the city where the crystal's full power could be unleashed. But to reach it, Mark and Aris would have to face the Coalition's forces, the wraiths hunting in the shadows, and the ancient predator awakened by their earlier actions. The stakes had never been higher. As the sun set over the alien world, Mark and Aris prepared for the battle that would decide not just their fate, but the fate of countless worlds. Cliffhanger. Deep beneath the city, in the sanctuary's dark heart, something stirred, an ancient power awakening, ready to reshape the universe forever. The awakening and the choice. The sanctuary's entrance yawned like a silent beast beneath the alien city, its ancient stone walls humming with an energy older than time. Mark and Aris stood before it, the weight of their journey pressing heavy on their shoulders. Thal's Coalition forces were closing in, their footsteps echoing through the cavernous halls. The wraiths, ever lurking in shadows, stalked closer still, But inside this sanctuary was the hope, the power to end the relentless chase, the hunger, and the war. Aris held the crystal close, its light pulsing with her heartbeat. "We must awaken it," she whispered. Mark nodded, gripping his makeshift spear tightly. "Whatever happens, we face it together." They stepped inside. The chamber was vast, walls covered in glyphs that shimmered with knowledge and memories. The air was thick with anticipation. Aris approached a pedestal in the center, a carved altar shaped like a star. Placing the crystal upon it, she began to chant in a language older than the stars. Mark watched as the crystal's light grew brighter, filling the room with radiant energy. Suddenly the ground trembled. The ancient predator, the one that had been stalking them, burst forth from the shadows, a colossal creature of shifting forms and radiant energy, hungry and wild. Mark raised his spear, ready to fight, but Aris stepped forward, her voice steady and commanding. "You are part of this balance," she said. "You must stop the hunger, stop the destruction." The creature hesitated, its glowing eyes meeting hers. The crystal flared, binding their fates. Mark felt the air shift, the predator's rage calming into something almost peaceful. The chamber's glyphs glowed brighter, revealing the truth. The crystal was not just a weapon. It was a living link between species, a beacon to maintain harmony across the universe. Aris's voice broke the silence. "This power is ours to protect, not to control." Thal's forces burst into the chamber, weapons drawn, but they faltered at the sight of the glowing sanctuary and the tamed predator. Mark stepped forward. "There is no victory in destruction, only survival in unity." Thal's face twisted in fury, but the collective energy in the room overwhelmed him. With a final surge, Urus activated the crystal fully. A wave of light spread, healing wounds, calming the wraiths, and quelling the predator's hunger. The coalition forces, seeing the power's truth, lowered their weapons. Mark looked at Aris, a deep respect and admiration shining between them. "You did it," he said quietly. She smiled, exhausted but hopeful. "We did it." As the sanctuary's light faded to a gentle glow, Mark and Aris realized the journey had changed, more than just their fate. It had changed the universe's path. Epilogue. Back on Earth, Mark stood beneath the stars, thinking about the impossible journey. Aris was safe, her people healing, and the crystal, now a symbol of hope, remained a reminder that even in the darkest times, unity and trust could light the way. Mark whispered to the night sky, "We're not alone." And somewhere across the vast cosmos, a new chapter was just beginning. Lesson: true strength lies not in domination or fear, but in understanding, trust, and the courage to protect what unites us all, no matter how different we may be.